right, guys. Let's get this mouse back over. I decided to uh, do this video a little bit early today. It's around 6:30, so bear with me. I'm a little tired, but should be pretty easy lesson for today. We're only going through 7 slides. Um, if you've looked at Canvas yesterday, the e-learning assignment was to take a quiz on last week's stuff. Today, we're taking a few notes, just 7 slides, on a new section, which is over ecology. We'll talk about what that means and some of the basic parts of ecology here in a little bit. So sorry if it's a little dark behind me. I think it's still dark outside the window. So let's just go ahead and jump into it for today. So we're going to start with 3.1 of chapter 3. This is studying our living planet. Ecology is just the study or the scientific study of interactions among organisms and between organisms in their environment. So it's where certain types of organisms live, how they interact with other types of organisms in that particular environment or that particular area, and how they interact with their environment. So not just other living things in the species and out of the species, but how do they interact with the non-living things in their environment as well. So first we got the biosphere. Biosphere includes everything in ecology. It's Earth's organisms, all of them. Every single living thing that lives on Earth is a part of the biosphere. It's also the most inclusive category that we have for studying ecology. That's just life in general, everywhere on planet Earth. And since we don't know of life anywhere beyond planet Earth right now, that's where it's going to stay. So the biosphere obviously consists of the parts of the planet in which all life exists. That's planet Earth, mostly on the surface. So we're talking about just Earth as far as ecology in the biosphere. So ecologists can study different levels of ecological organization. And this actually gets more inclusive as we go down the list. And I've got a graphic that'll kind of put it in perspective in the next one. But the first, we've got an individual organism. It exists inside of an environment. And that's just one individual part of a species. A little bit larger than just the individual organism, you have a population. Now, a population is an assemblage of individuals that belong to the same species and live in the same area. So, if you go to a new town and you see like the population of so-and-so is 2,432. It's based on the census. It's based on all the people that live in that particular town. Now, when we're talking about populations in ecology, it's a little bit more restrictive than that, because population of a town, you can still move around, you can still go from one town to another. But when we're talking about a population in ecology, we're talking about like a reproductively isolated group that kind of live together, like a little tribe maybe. Population of one species of fish that lives in one pond. So there could be other pockets of that fish living elsewhere, but if we're talking about just that pond, we're talking about one particular population. Now, once again, population is one species. When we get down here to community, these are a bunch of different populations that live together. Like how do they interact with one another? That's our community, and community interactions is a huge part of ecology. So, a community is just a bunch of different populations, a bunch of different species living together, and how they interact with one another. Is there a predator-prey relationship? Do they help each other out? Is it symbiotic? Is it like a parasite thing? Those are community interactions. So it's just how do these different species interact with one another in a particular environment? So let's go ahead and look at the graphic. You see down here, we are extremely specific. We're talking about the individual. In this case, one caribou in his herd. But that one individual is also part of a population of caribou or wild deer. And they are reproductively isolated. They kind of move in a big group. It's like one herd of that particular animal. Above that, we've got a community. A community is just all of these different organisms living together. So one might eat another one. Two might kind of just be competing for resources as far as food is concerned. So competition over food. Some of these things might be like a mushroom, might be just a decomposer. So its job is to break down dead things so that the plants and the rest of the community can interact with it. But the community is just a bunch of different things, a bunch of different species put together in one area. The community is part of the much larger ecosystem. Ecosystem is just an entire area, multiple populations, multiple communities interacting in one particular place, geographically speaking. In a biome is a little bit more than that. Biome, these are much broader. These are like areas with the same types of climates and same types of things living there. So you've got like a desert biome. You're going to find the same types of organisms living in a desert biome. Similar ecosystems, like there's deserts all around the world. They're each their own separate ecosystem, but they all fit into one biome, the desert biome. Lastly, we have the whole planet. That is every living thing on planet Earth, and that is the biosphere. So as you should kind of see, it gets more and more broad as we go up this list. So let's look at an ecosystem. Ecosystem includes all of the organisms that live in a particular place. We've kind of just talked about that a little bit. But it's not just the organisms that live together. It's their physical environment as well. So it could be like a certain pond, a certain water source or watering hole. Those are very important in places like the African savanna. You've got to have one place where there's water because living things need water. It could be mountainous, rocky territory. That's going to change the type of living things or the type of things that can live there. And bigger than that, you've got a group of ecosystems that all fit into a type of biome. Like there are rainforest biomes in South America, like in the Amazon rainforest. You've also got them in Asia. You've also got them in the Pacific Islands. You've got these rainforest type biomes. Now they're all different environments because they're located in physical different places around the world. But they all kind of have the same types of things. A lot of rain, a lot of diverse plant life, and a lot of diverse types of animals as well. Biomes are kind of what I was just explaining. Biomes, these are ecosystems that have similar climates and the types of organisms that live there. So some examples of biomes are tropical rainforest, the desert, the temperate forest, which is where we live. You go out, you find seasonal trees, trees that lose their leaves seasonally. That's the temperate forest. So there's two things. Two things you got to look at when you're examining an environment, an ecosystem, a biome. That's going to be the biotic and the abiotic factors. So ecosystems are defined by the types of factors you find there. So what do I mean by biotic factor? What bio means life. So these are going to be the living parts of any environment. So biotic factors, we're talking about the actual living organisms that exist in this particular place. Abiotic factors, A meaning the absence of, bio meaning life again. So we're talking about any non-living parts of an environment with abiotic factors. This is going to be, once again, water availability. Is there a watering hole that all these animals can go to? Salt licks in rainforest environments. There's a huge lack of salt, so all these different organisms, these animals have to be able to find salt sources because that's a necessary part of the nervous system and regulating how much water is in each of our cells. So we need to have salt to live. So an abiotic factor would be like salt availability or water availability. So each ecosystem, two factors: biotic factors, the living things; abiotic factors, the non-living things. Finally, we make it to the last slide for today, and we're making good time. These are the ecological methods. So how do ecologists learn about the world around them? How do they perform their duties? How do they perform their scientific research? Well, there's three main ways. They can do it through observation, experimentation, or modeling, or a combination of all three of them. So the most basic way in naturist, and this is kind of like what Darwin did, observation. Observation, you just go out into nature, you go and you learn about different types of living things. So you could go to a particular environment to discover new species of insect in a particular spot in a rainforest. Scientists go to the Amazon all the time, try to find these new species. It's pretty interesting, also kind of dangerous, but that would be an example of observation. Or you might just go to a particular lake region and you go through and you try to count and see how many turtles live in that particular area. That would be an observation right there. You're not trying to influence anything. You just want to see. The second way is through experimentation. So you could actually run experiments to see how the ecosystems are impacted, or these little environments. So you can see how it might damage or how it might heal particular environments, and that just helps us learn more about ecosystems and environments. And lastly, something that's become especially available during the modern era when we have computers is modeling. Modeling, you can put a computer model together to just kind of see what influencing one particular thing in an environment, how it might affect something else. This gives us just an ability to kind of predict and see what could happen in the future. And it just gives us an easier visual way of representing some of the more complex parts of ecology. So, 7 slides for today. Pretty soon, I'm going to go ahead and put up the note check, the note understanding check. Should just be 3 questions based on something or some things that I've talked about in today's lesson. You can go ahead, look for yourself, but please do remember to take that quiz today or sometime this week before next Monday. All right, guys. I will see you later.